can hear on the airwaves. It's that WBOK 12:30 a.m.
From the campus of Xavier University.
Look.
WBOK 12:30 a.m.
Go.
An Equity Media Station.
I'm Mike Island with 4 things you should know on the Black Information Network. President Trump's new tariffs on automobiles are causing economic uncertainty. The environmental group the Sierra Club claims the tariffs will increase car prices for Americans and hurt working families and likely a sizable number of black families. The FBI says one of the top leaders of the MS-13 gang has been arrested in Virginia. The unidentified 24-year-old was taken into custody this morning. The Tennessee Department of Health is confirming its 5th pediatric flu death of the season. 2 more children died of the flu between March 8th through the 15th. Nationally, there have been about 150 pediatric flu deaths, the CDC says. Multiple states across the country are bracing for more severe weather. Washington and Oregon are expecting rain, hail, and 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts, rare for those states this time of year. I'm Mike Island on your home for Black News First, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
It's now time for Let's Elevate, the Arnie and Carey Show with Arnie Filko and Carey Grant.
All right. Good evening, New Orleans. How is everybody doing in this absolutely gorgeous Thursday, leading into a wonderful weekend? Although I heard just a little while ago that one of my favorite events, the St. Patrick's Day Parade, has been canceled again because of rain we're supposed to get on Saturday. That is such a bummer because I think that's one of the best parades in our city during the year. And, you know, who would believe 2 times we would have the parade canceled? That's just really sad, and they're not going to reschedule. So it looks like we got to look forward to 2026. But the good news is guess what's coming just around the bend here? And that's festivals. This is festival season. We got the French Quarter Fest in a couple weeks. We got Jazz Fest coming the last 2 weekends of April and beginning of May. We got the PGA tournament coming that weekend. We got the NFL draft coming. So, you know, we was down in the quarter today and talking to some people, and the reality is nothing stops in New Orleans. It just goes on and on and on. But I have to tell you, I'm really excited tonight and really honored because I have the most incredible, she's not going to be a guest, she's just kind of a visitor, but my own mother is here in studio tonight, Dorothy Filko from Tucson, Arizona, who is here for the weekend visiting and eating some great food and hearing some music and just enjoying all that New Orleans offers. I think in just 24 hours, we've had crawfish, we had incredible trout, amandine today, and more to come. Dookie Chase, hopefully on Saturday night. So we are going to eat our way through New Orleans, and that'll be a lot of fun. We stopped at Brocato's, by the way, had Italian ice on the way to the studio. So the one thing we know in New Orleans is we are the best. In fact, we were rated number 1 in the country for food, and we never disappoint in that. We're going to cover a lot of topics tonight. I am solo. My good friend and co-host Carey Grant is taking the night off. Appreciate him allowing me last night to MC an event, and he did solo last night, so I'm paying him back by doing solo tonight. Really would love to hear from you because we're really going to jump around to a number of things. Our call-in number is 504-582-9422. The show is always better when you call in and we can get your input and ideas. We got a great producer, John Wick, here is behind the glass. And, we start tonight, I thought, with just some fun sports talk. I don't know about everybody else, but I'm so glad that the tournament is back. We're in second weekend, Sweet 16 tonight and tomorrow. I think this is such a great sporting event. I have to tell you, as I told you all a week ago, my team was the Wisconsin Badgers, and unfortunately they ran into a really good, tough, hot team in BYU and lost, although they lost in the last seconds. They came back in a pretty strong way, but they're out. So I'm cheering for a couple things. I'm cheering to win the tournament for my good friend, head coach from Auburn University, Bruce Pearl. I really would like the Tigers are number 1 seeded. They got a lot of talent. I would love Bruce to be cutting down the nets in San Antonio next weekend. But it's a rough road. There's a lot of really good teams. We're going to cheer tonight for the Arizona Wildcats because my family for 5 decades is from Tucson, Arizona. Have been longtime Wildcat fans, and they got to go up tonight against number 1 Duke. So it's not an easy game, but it's not impossible. They are a very talented team. That'll be really fun to watch. And out of respect and honor of my mother, before that, the first game, which is starting about now, by the way, got to cheer for the Crimson Tide of Alabama. My mom went to Tuscaloosa at the University of Alabama, and, they have a really good chance, I think, to win tonight. Hopefully they will beat BYU and advance to the Elite Eight. So it's a fun time. And if you don't like basketball, this is how I can drown my depression because my team is out of the basketball tournament. Tonight starts the Major League Baseball season. So if any of you are baseball fans, John has got his LA. That's the Dodgers or that's the Dodgers? Yeah, it's hard to root for the Dodgers. You know how much money they spent this year? They blew the entire league out because of their. If they don't win it, it's a problem for them. What do you think?
I believe they will take it all.
Oh, okay. Well, they took it all last year, and
It's going to happen again.
I know. Well, they're pretty darn talented. They already started the season. I don't know if you knew that. They played the Cubs last week in a 2-game series in Japan that actually counted for the regular season. So the Dodgers are 2-0 right now. Unfortunately, my Cubbies are 0-2 going into tonight.
The Cubs, oh, man.
Oh, come on. Everybody's got to love the Chicago Cubs. I mean, if you are anybody that cheers for the underdog, you got to cheer for the Cubs. Look, if you're a Saints fan, since 1967, okay, we've won 1 Super Bowl here. The Cubs have won 1 championship in over 100 years. So we're like kindred spirits here.
Well, no, it just took us 50-some-odd years to get a championship.
Well, it took us 100 years to win a World Series. Well, baseball starts tonight. In fact, the season has already started. I haven't seen any scores yet. But if you like baseball, we're ready for the next 6 months. It's all about baseball. All right, so now we got to get serious. So I want to talk about a few things tonight. I got to start with our president. I don't even know where to start with our president. First of all, everybody knows how much I'm interested in foreign policy, so I got to start with kind of our foreign policy. Number one, I'm still waiting for the moment because I think our president said in the campaign that, within 24 hours, the Ukraine-Russia deal will be settled. Well, we're now 6 weeks into it, and I don't know how much closer we are. The latest news from really yesterday was that both sides have verbally agreed not to attack each other in the Black Sea so that shipping could be going on. But with one big condition that Russia said, and that was, oh, by the way, though, you've got to lift some sanctions because we're at a disadvantage because of the sanctions in shipping wheat and other things around the world. That doesn't sound like a total ceasefire. It isn't a total ceasefire. At best, it may be partial. I'm not saying it's bad, by the way. Enough. We don't want any more people to die, okay, on either side. So I'm not saying it's bad. But at some point here, I have to say, Trump is going to need to get tough with Russian President Putin. He's going to have to lay down the law. And the law is, if you don't start to agree to some of the things that we, the United States, wants, we're going to increase sanctions and we're going to arm Ukraine even more than what Joe Biden did. That is what will create leverage in a negotiation that may bring Putin to the table. And I say may because this is a war criminal we're talking about. And I don't really think he really wants the war to end, but he may be forced to end the war at some point. But it's not going to end by these nice statements from Steve Witkoff, who's the envoy for Trump, who's saying, you could trust Putin. He's not a bad guy. No, he's a really bad guy. One of the worst guys in the history of the world, okay? And he knows only one thing, and that's force. So we'll see what happens there. I want to highlight one more positive thing, or maybe not one more, maybe a positive thing out of the Middle East that we've not seen in years and decades. Yesterday in northern Gaza, there was a rally of Palestinians, of Gazans, protesting not against Israel, protesting against Hamas and saying enough is enough. We don't want you in leadership. We want you out. We don't like what you did on October 7, and we're sick of our people dying because of you. Now, I just want us to step back for a minute. That has never happened. In my life, I don't remember it ever happening. And you know what it says to me? It says to me, number one, that maybe there is some optimism and hope for optimism for peace in the region. For too long, the hatred has been between Palestinians and Israelis. All right? And for anybody that's objective, what Hamas did on October 7 is evil and vicious. Evil and vicious, to kill people and to take hostages. But for the first time, Gazans themselves have stood up. And again, it's a start. I mean, it was 1,000 people reported, which is a good number. But there's way more than 1,000 people in Gaza. But for Gazan people to stand up and say what they said gives me hope that not only could there be a resolution of the situation in Gaza, but a resolution between Israelis and Palestinians. And I'm going to say, I have many friends in Israel. You've heard me say this. I am very pro-Israel. All right? A lot of Israelis are very negative right now on the idea of a two-state solution because of what happened on October 7 and because of other suicide attacks that have been occurring they don't believe that there would be peace where the two societies live side by side. I don't believe that. The majority of American Jewish people don't believe that. But this is the first time that you really could see and believe and have some vision that maybe down the road peace could come. Because at the end of the day, I do believe, and I don't believe I'm in a minority here, I believe Palestinians and Arabs and Jews and Israelis want the same thing. They want a future for themselves and for their children. They want security so they don't have to worry about going into bomb shelters or being bombed from the sky. They want economic prosperity so that there really is a chance for everyone in the Middle East to prosper. Okay? They want good schooling so that their kids, like my kids and my grandkids, may have a better life and opportunity than maybe I did or my parents did or my grandparents did. Those are common values that all people want. And I only hope and pray that maybe what I saw yesterday is the beginning of something special. Now, I will say it's going to take bold leadership on all sides. It's going to take Palestinian leadership that is courageous and willing to stand up and say, we can live side by side with Israel. And it's going to take Israeli leadership, whether existing or new, that's going to need to have that same philosophy. People may not know this because, we see a lot of news in America. There's a lot of anti-Israel stuff out there. But what people may not see is every night, every day, there are Israeli people marching and protesting against their own government because they want the hostages returned. All right? And they do that because it's the value system of Israel and the value system of the Jewish faith that every life matters. And even a dead hostage, and there's many of those in Gaza right now, is worthy of bringing back to Israel. So I'm not going to belabor it, but I do want to say, let's hope that maybe there was a small crack of optimism that we saw coming. Because if it could happen, it could be truly magnificent. And if you put that together with the possibility of a Palestinian home and state and put it together with the Abraham Accords, where other Arab states want peace as well with Israel, we could be talking about a very different Middle East. Now, can President Trump pull that off? I don't know. All right? I don't know. But the reality is it hasn't been pulled off by anybody, Republican or Democrat. I don't think this is a political issue. And I'll just say this. It is time. I've been to Israel a lot of times. I'm going to be back there in July. Israelis want peace, too. Ukrainians want peace, too. You can only fight for so long. But you can't wake up in Kyiv in Ukraine or in Tel Aviv or Jerusalem or in Gaza City. You can't wake up every night and wonder whether or not bombs are going to go off. That's not a way of life. All right. John, do we need to take a break or should we keep going?
We have a couple more minutes.
All right. So
I just want to add, Trump is a buffoon.
Well, we've said that a number of times on the
And
station.
something that upset me, I shouldn't say upset me, but just totally made the U.S. an embarrassment was Marjorie Taylor Greene, the way she handled the reporter from the BBC, the way she told her, I'm not answering to you. We don't deal with your kind. And it's like, really?
Yeah. Well,
I can't think of the words to put what kind of woman she is.
yeah. No, she is truly horrendous. Only maybe equalized. He's not in Congress anymore, but we all remember Matt Gaetz, who from Florida, and Marjorie Taylor Greene's from Georgia. These two truly are ridiculous. But I have to say, I was having this discussion with my mom yesterday. Some of the things I see from some of these other folks in government right now, in the cabinet, for example, are ridiculous. I mean, Kennedy announces today he's slashing, the Health and Human Services Department by how many thousands of jobs? I mean, have we lost 2,000? Have we lost sight of the fact that, first of all, we have a measles outbreak going on around the country? We have people, including from our own state of Louisiana, we had our Surgeon General saying, vaccines. We don't want to be promoting vaccines. I mean,
that's the most idiotic thing in the world.
John, are we living like in a alternative universe? Honestly,
we must be.
Yeah. And again, I know I'm biased. I am a lifelong Democrat, but you know what? I can support good Republicans. I like Bill Cassidy. I don't like everything he does, but I respect Senator Cassidy from Louisiana.
There are some things that they say that make sense. Some things, not many, but some.
I can even respect. Majority Leader Scalise. Because I know Steve personally. Now, do I like his policies? No. But do I think a guy like that has a heart? And I do. My other people may disagree with me, and you may be right. But look, I don't think we can't keep going on. We covered this, John, last week. Look, nobody wants violent criminals in the United States. I don't want MS-13 here. I don't want the Venezuelan gang here. But I'm telling you, when it's okay, but to put people on an airplane
just because
surreptitiously,
yes,
exactly.
There were a lot of people that was sent there that were legal.
They were innocent people. It's just, that is not America. That is not democracy. Because when you start to do that, you create a slippery slope, okay? And you start to create a precedent that, well, maybe it's okay. If I don't like the guy and he's really a bad guy, let's ship him out of the country. I'm sorry. That's not America. That's not democracy. We are a land of laws. And, even the worst human beings in the world have due process, okay? I mean, if you don't want due process, then go live somewhere else. But that is what has made America great.
Yes.
And I have to say, whether you are, Democrat, Republican, we should all be behind that principle. Because when you start to let it slip and say, well, they're Venezuelan horrible gang members, let's make the exception.
Mm-hmm.
No, you can't make an exception. I'm going to date myself. There was a time, John, 3 or 4 decades ago, that American Nazis marched in the Chicago area. And
it wasn't too long ago at all.
it was about 3 decades ago. I was living there, and the issue within the Jewish community was,
It's happened recently.
we hated these people.
Yes.
They killed 6 million of us.
Yes.
But you know what? They had the right to march. And although I despise them, I despise their message, democracy and freedom and First Amendment gives those people the right to at least march. And when you put a people on an airplane, who, you're right, they've already discovered many of them are not gang members. One guy that was on TV the other night, he had this, because they're all tattooed up, right?
Right.
This guy had a tattoo. It ended up being a soccer tattoo, okay, that they mistook for the Venezuelan gang. And unfortunately, these people now, I mean, this prison, I wouldn't want to go to this prison. I wouldn't even want to visit it. I mean, get them back. If they're innocent, we need to be bringing them back, for God's sakes.
Somebody needs to check Melania's parents' papers and see if they're legal.
Well, and somebody needs to check J.D. Vance's history, because this is a guy that came from poverty. And, you know, if there's somebody that ought to have some compassion for people that have difficulties, this is the guy.
He's a
and
clown.
He's probably the worst.
He's a clown.
Yeah.
A few years ago, I can't stand Trump. Now, I love him.
Absolutely.
And he's brown nosing.
Yeah. Well, flip-flopping seems to be something that a lot of people do
Yes.
right now. We will come back. We will. I promise you, we're not gonna harp on Trump all night. Just a little bit tonight. 504-582-9422. Would love to hear from you. Come on, call in.
On last week's From the Press Box to Press Row with Donald Ware.
Larry Vickers, the head women's basketball coach. Coach Vickers, congratulations. Like we were talking about the whole video game thing. Where are you with that?
They lost me a little bit in 2024 Call of Duty. They kind of changed some things in the system that I haven't loved.
It sounded like a couple of excuses to me. Like if one of your players came to you and said similar, I don't think you would accept that.
You know, this year I didn't talk any trash. I didn't say anything. It's just, you know, I'm enjoying retirement, I guess. I just feel sabbatical.
From the Press Box to Press Row is one of the hottest sports talk shows in the country. Join Donald each week as he takes you on a journey through the world of HBCU sports and pro sports and interviews with top sports and entertainment figures. That's From the Press Box to Press Row.
Fridays on WBOK 1230 AM. What New Orleans is talking about.
Hi, I'm Leo Jackson, host of Sunday Gospel here every Sunday morning, 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. and 12 o'clock till 2 p.m. You don't want to miss this move of God. It happens only on WBOK. You listen to all day long.
WBOK 1230 AM online at WBOK1230.com.
The Arnie and Carey Show with Arnie Philco and Carey Grant.
All right, everybody, we're back. Again, we'd love to hear from you tonight, 504-582-9422. Hope everybody is doing well. You know, we had a great show Tuesday night. We went over the 4 constitutional amendments, and I want to remind people this Saturday is Election Day. It's really, really important that you go out and vote. You know, you can only do it in person now. But go out. I know the weather's maybe a little bad on Saturday, but these amendments are really important. I mean, there's 4 of them. You know, one of them deals with criminal justice. By the way, we've recommended on our show that you cast a no vote for all 4. But one of them deals with criminal justice that I think is really a bad law if it passes. We've got another one that deals with our tax system here. And others. So again, form your own opinions. I will tell you that our newspaper has suggested that Constitutional Amendment 1, 2, and 3 that they recommend a no vote on that and a yes vote on the 4th one, which the 4th one is really somewhat minor. But the first 3 are particularly important. And again, I go out and vote. You know, my feeling is the vote ought to be no. But you form your own opinions. Read about it. There's a lot out there. You can go to the websites and learn about each of them and, be an informed voter to do that. Want to cover a few topics locally.
Before you do that, I want to tell you.
Go on, John.
Saturday, my wife and I went to early vote to the warehouse on Sheffman Tour. And when we got there, the line was kind of long, but it moved extremely quick. Like, wow, this is going fast. So the lady before me went in, and it seemed like she went in and just turned around and came back out. Like, did she even vote? So I said, okay, well, I went in, I put my card in and everything, and the 4 amendments popped up. No.
Yeah.
And I was done just as quick. I'm like, wow. So my wife, she decides she wants to read. I'm like, dear, it took me all of 5 seconds to vote. Why were you in there for 2 minutes?
Well, I think there's two types of voters that do that. There's the voter, maybe like you, that has read about the amendments, has studied up. Because if you go into the ballot box and try to read, it's all, unless you're a lawyer, okay?
The verbiage is put there to confuse you.
It is, exactly. And like amendment number 2, we talked about this the other night. It's like 100 words for the amendment. Do you know how many pages the amendment is? Just guess. I'm wondering if you know.
I would say the amendment was probably at least about 60 pages, maybe.
115 pages.
Wow.
So, there are people like you that kind of know, they got educated, they've read it before, they've done the research. So it's easy to go in there and do blank, 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 blank.
Yeah.
And then there are other people, unfortunately, that probably have never understood what's going on, but they want to vote. So they'll go in there and go, blah, 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 blah. And usually, the common sense of most people is, I don't really like change too much.
Yes.
I'll just vote no against everything.
And that's New Orleans.
That happens on tax votes a lot, where you're trying to do a millage increase.
Yeah,
it's much easier to just vote no.
Whenever we have an election and there are amendments on the ballot, I find out exactly what those amendments are about, so that when I go in there, I know exactly what I'm doing.
Well, I commend you for that, and I think a lot of people do that. Not everybody, but on a vote like this, because there's really nothing else to vote on other than this, and I think in our parish, I haven't been there, and I'm going to vote on Saturday, so I don't think I'm missing any Orleans elections necessarily. They are in other parishes, but so this is really this is the game here, is the constitutional amendments. These really affect people's lives. I mean, amendment number 2 deals with tax reform that puts a higher burden on sales tax and decreases income tax. Well, for people that are in the highest of the brackets, that's pretty good, right?
Yeah.
But if you're in the middle class and lowest of the brackets, maybe not so good.
Well, they're trying to eliminate middle class anyway.
Yeah, they are. And again, there's so many aspects of that. On number 2, I mean, we could spend all night, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Number 3 is particularly of interest to me because for those that may not have followed it, right now we have a specific enumerated list in the Constitution of offenses, criminal offenses, where a juvenile, 14 to 16, could be tried as an adult. And these are things like murder and aggravated rape and, big things.
Now they want it to be 10 years old.
Yes. Well, now what they want us to do is that the legislature would have the right to enumerate any offense to be tried as an adult as opposed to a juvenile. So, again, I'm using this hypothetically, so don't everybody jump and call it. I mean, jaywalking, it's a terrible offense. If you're 14 to 16, it's now in the list that we passed as a law. We can try you in adult court. I mean, come on, that doesn't make any sense.
It's basically like saying that a policeman can pull you over for whatever they want to pull you over for.
Right.
And give you a ticket for whatever.
Right.
Because they feel like, you're doing this, I'm going to send you to jail for this.
Well, it puts the power in the legislature. And look, in the state of Louisiana, the legislature now is 2/3 Republican. Okay. So is that really what we want? I don't want that. I mean, first of all, 14, 15, and 16-year-olds, yes, if they commit murder,
yes,
the DA should have the discretion whether or not to, to charge and try them in either juvenile or adult court. But I think the laws that fall under that are reasonable right now. I don't know what could come if this constitutional amendment, and that's the concern. And look, we all know there's a big difference between adult jail and prison and juvenile prison, okay? I mean, the idea of juvenile is more rehabilitation and education, whereas when you go to Angola, it's more punitive. You're punishing an adult because of the offense that they committed.
Because at that age, their mind has not fully developed yet.
That's right.
They can't. A lot of them cannot comprehend what they are doing.
Right.
It's not like a video game where you kill somebody and you have another man to take his place.
Right.
Once you kill a human, that's it.
Right.
It's over with.
And what I like about the current law, which is why I would vote against the amendment, is it makes sense. I mean, right now, Jason Williams in Orleans Parish, if he has a 15-year-old that commits a murder, it is his discretion, and he's an elected official. So if he doesn't do his job, he's accountable to us as voters, right? But it's his discretion. That's where I want it to be. I don't want it to be sitting in Baton Rouge, where 2/3 conservative from northern Louisiana are making up, crimes where 14 and 15-year-olds could be charged.
You know how
that
they
way.
feel, especially if it's a young black juvenile? Oh, they want to do away with all of them.
Well, you know the answer to that.
Yes.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And you said something. I just want to say something about the MAGAs. This is my last soapbox rant.
That's all right.
Jasmine Crockett called Governor of Texas Hot Wheels because he's in a wheelchair, so she called him Governor Hot Wheels. The MAGA people freaked out and said, "How dare she say something like that?" But here's a list of things that MAGAs have said over the years: Sleepy Joe and Ho gotta go. Kamala Harris slept her way to the top. Michelle Obama is a man. How can I put it? Screw your feelings, libtards. Let's go, Brandon. All that was okay, but let one Democratic person say Hot Wheels about the governor, and she should be thrown out.
Why? I heard the comment. I'm gonna say something that people may not agree with. Okay, I don't like any of that. I have to tell you the disrespect. Well, let me finish.
Mm-hmm.
The disrespect and the incivility. I don't know if that's a word or not, incivility, but I think people know what I mean. That people show to other people is not acceptable anymore. The MAGA people calling. I mean, I forgot who made the call, but I mean, we've had disabled entertainers. We've had other people. I don't know if people remember the week before the election, there was a rally in Madison Square Garden, and a comedian got up at the MAGA
the Puerto
rally.
Ricans?
Yeah, I mean, I was so embarrassed for America. Okay, I don't like it.
But the sad thing is, they still voted for him.
Well, I know, but I guess what I'm saying is whether it's a Democrat, Crockett, or whether it's somebody in the far right, we as a country got to get away from that. And Representative Crockett did apologize. Okay, she did. Said that's not what she intended. She wasn't trying to offend his disability. She was trying to go after his policy, which is fair game. But I'm hoping, and you know what? I mean, this leads to a much bigger discussion that the Democratic Party is having right now. Does it go more moderate and centrist as we get to the next election cycle, or does it have more of the progressive extreme? And I look, people have their own opinions on this. As much as people don't like Marjorie Taylor Greene, I don't like AOC. I don't think her message is where most of America is. And I believe that if we're going to win elections again, Democrats, if we're going to win elections again, we've got to find that sweet spot where we don't give up on the principles of our party. You don't want to ever do that. But we can't be to the extremes because the American public, unfortunately, we live in New Orleans. We're a Democratic city, right? I used to live in Chicago, Democratic city. What we're missing is there's a lot of people living in Iowa and South Dakota and Oklahoma that don't share a lot of the stuff that, John, you and I might agree on. And we can either say, they're wrong and we're right, or we could come up with good policy that affects everybody Because at the end of the day, if you don't win elections, and we're finding it right now, aren't we? Elections matter. And if we don't find a way to start winning elections again as Democrats, then we're going to be on radio like we are tonight, bitching and complaining about Trump and his cabinet, and I don't want to do that.
I'm exhausted.
I'm exhausted too. I think America's exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
It's only 6 weeks. Can you believe that? 6 weeks he's been in office.
And a lot of this hitting below the belt stuff started with Trump. When he called crooked Hillary and all that stuff like that, all that jazz. But when he made fun of, was it Steve? I can't remember what his name was.
Yeah, you and I have the same image of what was
Yeah,
happening,
and he's
I
doing
can't
making
think
that
of the person's name.
the hands and
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like he should have been kicked out right then and there.
Yeah,
he should have been
Michael J. Fox.
No, not Michael J. Fox.
No.
This is another guy. He's in a wheelchair. Michael J. Fox has Parkinson's.
Yes,
but this guy was born with
I got you.
Born like that.
See,
I think he had cerebral palsy and he was born.
No, look. We in New Orleans are privileged that we have a Steve Gleason in our community. A Steve Gleason that's still living and doing incredible things for the world.
Yes.
And it bothers me, and I know it does too, when I see an elected official mock somebody with a disability. What is wrong with them?
That really is like, even if you're not an official, what kind of person are you to mock someone?
And you know what's even worse than that sometimes is it's terrible what the person who says it, how bad that is. But when somebody says it, where are other people that are saying, stop? I'm not, that's wrong. Where are the Republicans when MAGA says something utterly horrendous?
Exactly.
Where are the Republican senators and representatives? Stand up, for God's sakes, okay?
They're scared
and say,
of Trump.
I don't accept that. That's not who I am.
I don't know why they're scared of him. I have no idea why they're scared of him.
Well, first of all, you know what? He's good. He is term limited, and despite the fact that a lot of people think he's going to run for a second term, he's not going to have a second
third
term. Huh?
Third term.
Third
technically
term.
a second term.
Second term now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they shouldn't fear him as much. Because he really politically his day will end in 3 years plus.
Well,
but they're scared. They're completely scared.
We can really nix what he does in 2 years when there's midterm elections and everybody vote blue.
Yeah.
You can nix what he's doing.
Yes. Well, midterm elections generally go against the party in office. If the Democrats do this right, we should recapture the House. Okay? Senate, I don't know. But the House, we should be able to recapture. There's only, a 2 or 3 person majority right now for the Republicans. But it's going to be contingent upon what kind of candidates the Democratic Party puts up.
Yes.
And this is what I was saying to you. And we need to have much more discussion. There are people that are listening tonight that don't agree with what I'm saying. I know they don't. Because there are a lot of Democrats, especially younger Democrats, that are much more progressive. I'm an old guy, okay? I come from the Bill Clinton era, all right? So I'm more centrist. But I have to tell you, we've got to start thinking of what wins elections. Because at the end of the day, we could have incredible policies, but if we don't win the election, it doesn't matter. So let's find, my mom and I were talking in the car today. We have some great Democratic candidates for office. Wes Moore, governor of Maryland, is a wonderful candidate. Okay, smart. When the bridge collapse in Baltimore happened, I don't think anybody knew who he was before then. He got up there. He took leadership. They rebuilt the bridge. He's a national guy. Shapiro out of Pennsylvania, the governor out of Pennsylvania, is a wonderfully intelligent, moderate. John Fetterman, people may not like kind of his dress and, he had some health issues, but John Fetterman speaks his mind and he's very centrist.
Walls.
Yes, he's very much courageous, yes. I think those are better candidates than the AOCs of the world or the Bernie Sanders of the world. I don't think that's where America is anymore. I think we're much more in the middle. And what most people worry about, if you really boil it down, what won Trump the election is one thing, the economy. And Biden it was very unfair because the economy really wasn't very bad. It's just they knew how to spin it just to talk about the cost of eggs and groceries and all that.
Is that the thing that gets me is that this guy bankrupted 6 times. And he's good for the economy? Where in the hell is that good for the economy?
Wait, but John, he represents the guy who doesn't make any money, right?
He represents the ignorance.
Yeah, I agree.
And he just used them to get what he wanted, and now he's cast them aside.
But you gotta give him credit for this. The guy is a master communicator. He really is. He knows how to play politics, and he's a master politician.
Well, when your followers are a bunch of sheep, it's very, very easy to convey your message.
That's true.
Oh my God.
Well, all right. Moving on.
Yes, moving on.
I want to talk quickly about the school board. We have a really important couple votes coming next week to elect the new CEO of the New Orleans public school system. They are down to 2 candidates, and I'm pretty excited, I have to tell you. The first candidate is Fatima Fulmore, who is the interim superintendent right now. She was hired in 2022 as a deputy superintendent under our former superintendent. She's from Brooklyn, New York, has spent some time here in New Orleans, was the chief accountability and school improvement officer in Omaha, and also worked in Philadelphia. But obviously, as the interim, comes with some advantage and disadvantage, I have to say. The $50 million, I don't know what I could call it, fiasco that happened, came when she was in office, not as superintendent, but as deputy. But she appears to have a lot of support over the last several years since Avis left. And it'll be interesting to see kind of where the board might be. This will be a vote of the Orleans Parish School Board. The other candidate is Sharon Latin Clark, a New Orleans native who graduated from Xavier College Prep, got her start in Houston, and eventually came back to New Orleans, taught English at Frederick Douglass High School, assistant principal in Phoenix before returning in 2001 to lead Sophie B. Wright, then a struggling middle school, and now I think a very successful school in our community. So I think this is a really important hire. As we know, NOPS is going through its own policy decisions. What are they going to do relative to charters? Are they going to have more district-controlled schools? Some very big things on the horizon. How do we make up the financial deficit that exists right now? And some other stuff. So looking forward next week, watch the news. I think if I remember right, there's a public hearing coming up. Go to the NOPS website. I'm sure you could find that and weigh in. You can go to the board meeting. You could put a card in and weigh in on that. We're going to go to a quick break, and then we're going to come back to Doyle. Doyle, hang in there. We'll be back in just a minute.
That's right. It's party time each and every Sunday night at 7 p.m. on WBOK. It's the Throwback Throwdown with DJ Wick as he brings you the best in old school from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and the early 2Ks. Plus, the party goes to another level at 9 p.m. with the Throwback Throwdown Party Mix to round out the night. It's the Throwback Throwdown Sunday nights at 7 p.m. on WBOK 1230 a.m. and on the World Wide Web at WBOK1230.com.
From the East Bank to the West Bank, WBOK is what New Orleans is talking about. WBOK, 1230 a.m.
The Arnie and Carey Show with Arnie Philco and Carey Grant.
All right, we're back. Doyle, are you there? Doyle? What? Doyle? I'm going to press the button myself, but I don't. Doyle, last chance. All right, just in case we lost you, call back, okay? Call back. We'd love to hear from you. And anybody else, 504-582-9422. So I want to spend kind of a large part of the remaining 15 minutes talking about something that was in the Advocate today, um, and it deals with New Orleans recreation and parks, um, which I have to say is a very important issue for our community and a very important issue for me. Um, so people may remember when I was on the city council after Katrina, um, one of probably my top priority was the reform of our recreation system. And I want to tell everybody the reason for that. My kids played at Carrollton Playground. Great system, great playground, great programs where they played a lot of baseball. I was a coach for years over there. But every time a Nord team came to play, I said to myself, something's just not right here. And let's be honest about it. Most of the Nord kids were African American. Okay. Um, they came, they did not have the same quality of uniforms, maybe the same equipment. What they had was great coaches. I'll say that. I mean, coaches that had tremendous heart, but they didn't have all of the same privileges and assets that the kids from Carrollton did. And I said to myself, this is before I was in office, I said, if I came from the sports world, if there's anything I could ever lend to help this community get better, it's to change that, to make sure that that inequity doesn't exist. So whether you have a great baseball experience or soccer experience or basketball, it should not be dependent upon your wealth. It should not be dependent on where you live in New Orleans. So when I got on council, I wanted to chair the Youth and Recreation Committee, and we did a lot of work in that committee, and we made the decision to go and do 2 years of community meetings where we heard from the public and gathered input about Nord. Now, for those that are natives or that know Nord, Nord has had kind of different histories. I mean, there was a segregated Nord, okay, that obviously was not good, not something that we would ever want to see again. But when you go beyond that, when Nord became integrated, Nord was a model for the United States. It won awards. I mean, I still hear kids talk about their coaches who are mentoring them for life, okay? So Nord was a very successful system. They had a good budget. They had money and finances. They had good coaches and such. Fast forward over the years, Nord is an easy thing to cut when it comes to city budget. And over the years, it did get cut. So I want to bring this to like 2007 and 8. We did a couple years of community meetings. I was joined by some tremendous community leaders, Rod West from Entergy and Roy Glapian. Everybody knows the Glapian family, and Bobby Guerin, local attorney, all with great hearts. And we learned so much. And really the question of the people was, if we changed the system, what would it look like? And we looked at many systems around the country, and lo and behold, the best system in the country was right down the street from us in Baton Rouge, called Breck. And that kind of led to what the reform was about. We went to the voters in 2010. The voters, by I think it was almost 70%, voted for a new recreation system. And under that system, there was a commission created called the Nord Commission, with members appointed largely by the mayor, but representing all 5 districts in New Orleans, and also a Nord Foundation, which is basically the fundraising arm of Nord. And we were ready to go. It started off, and also part of that was kind of taking power away from the mayor and putting it towards the commission and creating public-private partnerships where you had public sector and private sector coming together to help. Well, for a variety of reasons, I can say this very honestly, I don't think it worked the way the voters voted for it. Unfortunately, I had left town in 2011. I was gone for 5 years. And, I watched. And the Nord director during that time period, Vic Richard, I believe was a tremendous director. He's not somebody that I supported initially, and Vic and I talked about that because I thought we needed, something else. But I think Vic ended up being an excellent recreation director, again, with great heart, as does Larry Barabino, who's the current director. But I think if we're honest about it today, Nord has not lived up to its possibilities. And the article today, really highlights that because the NOLA Coalition, which I think people are aware of that because of the crime prevention stuff that's happened in Alaska. I mean, the NOLA Coalition has more than 500 members, well respected. But the NOLA Coalition came together with a number of other organizations in our community, the NAACP, the New Orleans Chamber, East New Orleans Neighborhood Advisory Committee, the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, the Business Council of New Orleans, and the Metropolitan Crime Commission came together and put a report out there, a statement out there a couple days ago that said, look, we got to do better here. The recreation is too important of an issue. We got to do better. The Inspector General has been asked to look at not only Nord, but a few of the other city departments in terms of how money is being spent. And I'll just say this. I've not always agreed with Larry Barabino. Larry was there when I was on the city council. He was the recreation director. I mean, we had a number of spirited, back and forth as on committee hearings. But I've got to know Larry over the years, and I think Larry does have a good heart, and I think he means well and wants best for the kids. But the system right now, just in my personal opinion, is not working the way it should. Number one, our playgrounds and parks, a lot of them are in really bad shape. And I know, part of it is we haven't had the resources, maybe we haven't had the staff, but we can't have a city where, a high percentage of our parks and playgrounds, just are in disrepair. That's not fair to the kids or anybody else that uses them. I also think we have a problem with programming. We've gone more to the model of outsourcing programming to other really good nonprofits in our community. I think that is the right model. The newspaper recited today 18th Ward, for example, works with Nord. 18th Ward is doing phenomenal work around our community. So I think that's the right model. But I would really like us as we go, because this is going to be a topic in the election. I'm hoping that it'll be a topic. I think all mayoral candidates and council candidates should be talking about their vision for Nord. And depending upon, who wins the mayoral election, is going to have their own vision, their own ideas. My guess is, just like you have with a lot of departments, there probably will be a new director in that regard. I'm not trying to kick Larry out of a position. I want to make that clear, but that happens in government when a new mayor comes in office. We've got to be able to take a look at this and figure out what works and what doesn't work. I mean, the Nord Foundation, in the year or two after the voters voted in 2011, 2012, I mean, there was tremendous support from the business community because they saw a new model for recreation. I mean, I think the numbers were something like $2 million in private money was coming into the system. As best as I understand, I'm not privy to all of the numbers. That number has dried up quite significantly. I mean, there used to be a full-time executive director that did nothing but go out and raise money for the Nord Foundation. I don't know that that's happening. I took a look today on the website for Nord, and there's 12, 13, 14 commissioners that are on the Nord Commission, and most of them that I read, it says their terms have expired. They expired last year or the year before. I mean, first of all, just from a professional standpoint, a website needs to be updated. I don't know if those people are still on the commission, and if they're on the commission, when does their term? Is there a new term that's been granted? When does it expire? I think the public wants to know that. So I think there's a lot of work here. I'm a very simple person. I have this basic belief that the way recreation should be run is this. I don't think Nord should be deeply involved in its own internal programming. We have great nonprofits in New Orleans that handle sports programs, cultural programs, music, arts, for not just youth, but seniors as well. I would like to think that it is the exception that Nord runs its own program, but rather that we're outsourcing to these nonprofits in a partnership, a way for them to do programming. I think that would be a big plus, including, by the way, swimming, which, we can spend an hour on swimming. Nord has had major problems getting lifeguards. I know it's been a problem across the country, but we got to figure that out, okay? We also should open our pools much earlier than we do right now. But on the other aspect, what Nord should be involved in is venue management. I mean, there should be a director at every playground and center in our community and a deputy director. And their job should be one thing, to make sure that the gates open at a certain time in the morning, they close at a certain time at night, that the park and fields are clean, that people can use them in a friendly way. Okay, it's like a restaurant. That's how a restaurant operates. You have to have somebody opening and closing it and making sure in between that it's run in a quality way. I think if Nord did that and focused on that and put the money towards that, we would have a much better system here. So, again, we'll talk more about this. This is a really important topic, folks, okay? And I know people have strong opinions. And I want to say this, let's not make this a racial issue. This is not a racial issue, okay? I started by telling you that we have an inequity in our city right now based upon where you live and your income. That should not be the case. Let's not, my goal and my dream is that a Nord system is every bit as good and maybe better than a Carrollton playground. All right? Is that real? Who knows? But I think we can do this together with citizen input. We can have great ideas, make sure the candidates know your opinions and express their opinions before you cast the vote next October. All right, well, this has been a great evening. I really appreciate, John, thank you for all of your input and being behind the screen. It's always great to have you. For everybody else, have a great New Orleans weekend. Watch a lot of sports. Enjoy a lot of music. We got a lot of music this weekend in our city. And Carey and I will be back next week. Look forward to being with you as usual next Tuesday night at 6 p.m. And together, you and us, let's elevate the conversation. Good night, New Orleans.